Hi, today we're going to talk about an increasingly relevant threat to global food safety and to human health, antibiotic-resistant bacteria. After viewing this video, you should have a better understanding of the definition and causes of antibiotic resistance, as well as the threat of a few antibiotic-resistant foodborne pathogens. So, what is bacterial antibiotic resistance? Antibiotic resistance occurs when a strain of bacteria develops a physiological immunity to an antimicrobial compound used to treat or prevent bacterial infections. So how does antibiotic resistance occur? This resistance can result from spontaneous genetic mutations followed by inheritance from the parent bacterium or horizontal gene transfer from an exogenous source. Spontaneous mutations confer antibiotic resistance in a number of ways. One example mechanism of antibiotic resistance is the promoted activity of cell membrane pumps that remove an antibiotic from a bacterium, minimizing its effect on the cell. This mutation, which provides some degree of antibiotic resistance, can then be spread to other cells when the parent cell replicates normally. This is the process of vertical gene transfer. Antibiotic resistance genes can also be spread horizontally through conjugation, using a plasmid, transduction, transfer of genetic information through bacteriophage infection, or transformation, uptake and incorporation of naked DNA by a cell. For the bacterium, antibiotic-resistant mutations are welcome survival mechanisms, but they can be extremely problematic for our macroscopic world. Here, we will briefly discuss the history of antibiotic use. Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin in 1929, followed by its mass production during World War II in the 1940s, revolutionized the world of antibiotics and opened doors to the discovery of other antibiotic classes throughout the late 20th century. Antibiotic resistance is an ancient phenomenon in bacteria, but misuse and overuse of antibiotics in human and food animals, as well as the lack of development of new drugs, has created strong positive selection for increase in the prevalence of antibiotic resistance. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there are at least 2 million annual cases of antibiotic-resistant infections in the U.S., approximately 23,000 of which are fatal. The CDC breaks antibiotic resistance into 3 categories: urgent threats, serious threats, and concerning threats. Relevant foodborne antibiotic-resistant bacteria are all classified as serious threats, but it is important to note that food is not the only concerning source of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Let's examine 3 antimicrobial-resistant foodborne bacterial pathogens that the CDC classifies as serious threats to public health in the United States. The first pathogen we will discuss is Campylobacter. Virtually all foodborne instances of campylobacteriosis are caused by C. jejuni and C. coli. Annually, there are 845,024 food-related Campylobacter infections in the U.S., and anywhere from 19 to 47% of these cases show signs of antibiotic resistance. Ciprofloxacin, a fluoroquinolone, and azithromycin, a macrolide, are 2 antibiotics commonly used to treat Campylobacter infections. However, Campylobacter strains resistant to these antibiotics are increasing in prevalence, limiting treatment options. Resistance to ciprofloxacin alone increased from 15 to 25% from 1997 to 2001. Since Campylobacter is a zoonotic pathogen with a broad animal reservoir, it is exposed to antibiotics both in animal production and in human medicine. In 2005, the FDA banned the use of fluoroquinolone antibiotics because of increasing evidence that antibiotics used on chickens caused an increase in resistant infections in people. Unfortunately, instances of resistance did not decrease afterwards. Another antibiotic-resistant foodborne pathogen of concern is Salmonella. Non-typhoidal Salmonella strains cause more than 1 million infections annually in the U.S. Ceftriaxone, a cephalosporin, and ciprofloxacin, a fluoroquinolone, are often used to treat salmonellosis. Unsurprisingly, these are often the drugs non-typhoidal Salmonella strains are resistant to. Salmonella is commonly found in and transmitted through meat and poultry products. One outbreak, involving dairy cattle and a multi-drug resistant Salmonella strain, of Salmonella Heidelberg, caused 56 infections and 17 hospitalizations. People were failing to wash their hands after coming into contact with livestock carrying the pathogen. The vehicle of transmission was dairy calves, purchased from a Wisconsin livestock market. It is important to remember to wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water after working with livestock, and also to remember that animals do not always look sick when they are colonized by human pathogens. Recent studies show that Salmonella enterica cerevar typhi is also developing antibiotic resistance. Let's check out a video to learn a little more about this issue. So far, we've discussed foodborne antibiotic-resistant pathogens, but it is important to briefly discuss an antibiotic-resistant pathogen not typically found in food, MRSA. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, or MRSA, is perhaps the antibiotic-resistant bacterium that receives the most coverage in the media. Almost half of all antibiotic resistance-related fatalities are from MRSA. MRSA strains are concerning due to their resistance to methicillin, cephalosporins, and related drugs. Many MRSA cases are acquired in a medical setting, posing an especially high risk for individuals with already compromised health. There are a number of tactics that should be used to lessen the impact of antibiotic resistance, including raising public awareness, investing in new antibiotic research and development, preventing infections with proper hygiene and sanitation, and optimizing current antibiotic usage. Combining these efforts may reduce the necessity for antibiotics or reduce the frequency at which they are misprescribed and misused. The future role antibiotic resistance will play in food safety, public health, and medical research remains unclear. However, the significance of antibiotic-resistant bacteria is undeniable, and their impact must be addressed in coming years. Thank you.